Later in the episode.
Like wisdom, Athena, wisdom. Then you got, the god of war. You got god of, probably boat making or something stupid like that. Craftsmanship or something.
Well, the closest I know for sure is Hephaestus, which was the god of blacksmith and craftsmanship.
Oh, there you go. Fun fact?
Yeah, what's your fun fact?
All right, so in the U.S., a given year, getting struck by lightning are around like 1 in a million. And winning a Powerball is like 1 out of like 365 million. So your chances of getting struck by lightning is actually better than winning the Powerball.
I actually know somebody who did get struck by lightning. Well, technically, they were under a tree that got struck by lightning, but it was close enough.
It don't count. I mean, like straight up dead on, struck by lightning.
Well, they felt the blast.
And a lot of people were like, oh, it's just bad luck. What I think is they pissed Zeus off.
Ha ha ha. Greek gods.
You Greek gods. You want to talk about it?
Yes, let's talk about it.
Welcome to the CRollur and Willy podcast. I'm Willy.
And I'm CRollur.
So how you want to start this episode kicking off with the Greek mythology, or you want to go straight into the Greek gods? I know they tied in together, but like it all starts somewhere.
Well, if we want to start at the beginning, according to Greek mythology, is that everything was chaos. And from chaos was born Gaia.
Gaia is the one who was like, you know what? I'm going to create a new world. And, she had 2 babies without, like she can have babies like a worm, like without like a mate.
Wasn't Uranus one of them, though? Uranus hated his children, so he locked them away. They came back to like those that weren't locked away decided that they wanted their brothers and sisters and took him out. That was Kronos. And then from there, Kronos got paranoid and ate all his children, except for apparently Zeus.
She fed that guy a rock or boulder wrapped around like a cloth, so he thought it was a baby. And then he felt so satisfied. He's like, yeah, I don't have to worry about anyone taking over my throne because I ate them all. But then
it's weird. It's weird how gods can live in the stomach of another god.
Right.
Or a titan.
Well, they're gods, so
I guess
they can't get digested because they got powers to not get digested.
But what I think is
look at Pinocchio.
What I think is weird is as heroic as Zeus' story is, where he saved his siblings.
Let's start with Zeus. After his mother saved him, right? They hid in the cave, and Zeus, as he got older, hated his father.
Yeah, Zeus himself, like he actually wasn't that great of a dude.
In the beginning,
despite being the heroic savior of his brothers and sisters.
I mean, other than that, he was kind of a good guy in the beginning when he was younger.
Being the youngest sibling, I'm surprised he was constantly the king of the gods. Like none of the older siblings were like, I'm older than you, I should get... No, they're like, you saved us, you are the king.
Let's name his, before we get started about Zeus saving his siblings, let's talk about who his siblings are so the people watching this episode knows. You got Poseidon, is a little bit older than Zeus. You have
Hera, which was both his sister and his
wife. Oh, okay.
Which is a little fucked up. But you got Demeter, Hestia, and Hades.
Hades the oldest, isn't he?
No, he's the oldest son.
Oldest son. Well, yeah.
Not the oldest sibling. The oldest son. There were sisters that were older.
All right, so let's talk about how Zeus took out Kronos.
Oh, Zeus took out Kronos?
Yeah.
Oh, it was simple, actually.
Did he get the help of the Titans with and the Cyclones?
Well, I guess the first thing he did is he poisoned Kronos to get his siblings back.
Right.
Then he unleashed the Titans and stuff from Tartarus.
Okay.
To fight, basically, to ally with them to fight against Kronos.
Gotcha. And that's how Kronos got defeated. But then Zeus is a fucking asshole and punished the Titans after that battle, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
He made Atlas hold up the Earth.
Yeah, all the Titans that were on Kronos' side.
Oh, the ones on Kronos'
yeah, the ones that weren't banished originally. Okay.
So what did he do with the other ones and the one that
I'm pretty sure they were guarding.
Oh yeah, that's right. So the Titan they put down in Hades world, right? that was on Kronos' side, and the other ones are guarding that, like a prison.
I mean, there's some debate on whether or not Hades' realm, the underworld, was actually Tartarus, or if Tartarus was its own realm. There is a debate on whether or not that's a thing, because the underworld may or may not have been Tartarus.
I actually read something about this underworld. For a deceased person, they put like coins on your eyes so you had to pay this guy that rolled his boat into the underworld, and you had to pay him just to get off the boat.
Yeah, that was a common belief that you had to pay the ferryman.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's why they buried them with coins on their eyes, so they wouldn't die
and get stuck,
and get stuck on the edge of the river Styx. There's technically 5 rivers, but I want to get into that a little later.
Okay. So we're going to skip off on Hades, and we're going to talk about all
mostly
them.
Because I want to talk about Hades specifically.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
But I do want to go over some of these Greek gods. The 12 Olympians in particular I wanted to talk about. And just get a general understanding of who they are. Like Zeus is the king of gods, the ruler of Mount Olympus, controller of like sky and lightning. Like he's known for the lightning bolt. Like I think everybody knows who Zeus is.
Everyone knows who Zeus.
You got Hera, which was the queen of gods, which was both his sister and his wife, who he was definitely not faithful to, because I mean he had so many illegitimate children. Some of them turned into gods, some of them turned into demigods,
like Hercules.
Speaking of that, Hercules was not actually Greek. That was the Roman adaptation. There's a major overlap of the Roman mythology and the Greek mythology.
What's that one guy? Let's go on with the other gods too.
All right.
We're going to talk about the important ones. Not like, oh, this person's like this, this person's son of this person.
Yeah. The 12 Olympians is what I want to focus on right now.
Let's focus
We've gotten Zeus and Hera. There's also Poseidon, which...
That's my favorite. Aquaman.
He is not Aquaman. He is the god of the seas, water, storms, hurricanes, and stuff. He is the middle son between Zeus and Hades. Then there's Demeter, which is the goddess of harvest and fertility. Then you got Apollo, which is the god of light, prophecy, philosophy.
We named rockets out of them.
There's actually a reason for that. That goes back to the Roman. Thing. You'll find a lot of space exploration stuff.
Yeah.
And and the planets are all named after the Roman adaptations of the Greek gods.
That's good to know.
Apollo is Apollo, by the way. Just a sneak preview on that one.
Yeah, he's not. You can't really change that one.
You got Artemis, which is the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness. You got Ares, the god of war, and violence
until
and bloodshed.
Kratos kicked his ass.
Yeah, let's talk. I don't know about that, but I will say that Ares was not well liked in the actual mythology.
Hermaphrodite got caught fucking by the husband. He threw a net on top of the bed, so when they got caught fucking, the net fell onto him and trapped him. Then he got all the gods.
I feel like you definitely got that wrong.
No, that's what happened.
No, you got the names wrong.
Is that Hermaphrodite or something like that?
You're mixing up 2 names.
Okay, what's the name of that one?
You're thinking of both Aphrodite.
And
her supposed husband, Hephaestus.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's what you're mixing the 2 names into one. Hephaestus was her husband. Aphrodite was the woman you're talking.
Yeah, but her and Ares got caught fucking by the husband, and he trapped him in a net.
But let's go to that. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, pleasure, passion, procreation, basically the goddess of sex.
Goddess of hoes.
She definitely loved playing around and fertility, mainly having sex. And then, of course, you have Athena, which is the goddess of wisdom, handcraft, and warfare. Basically, the better version of Ares. Then you got Hermes, which is the messenger of the gods, the god of travel and commerce and communication and all that. Then you get Dionysus, the god of wine.
Wine?
Grapefruit, festivity, like... Just basically think of the party god.
Useless.
Just think of the party god.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, well respected in this one as a jovial god. That was the 12. I think I covered all 12 here.
We're not going to talk about their kids or anything like that. We're just
No, this episode, I think we're just going to go briefly over a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
We're trying to go for like if we want to go in depth, we're going to do further episodes.
Yeah.
But this is more of a brief overview, and then I think we're going to highlight two of our favorites.
Okay.
As I said, Zeus had multiple affairs, and some of them became gods. Like Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, and Dionysus were all children of Zeus.
But different moms.
They're all from different lineages of Zeus, basically. As I said, Zeus, when it comes down to it, we glorify Zeus. I think the reason why we glorify Zeus is we actually pull like Christianity and Greek mythology into like one thing. We put Zeus as like the god of Christian and Hades as Satan or Lucifer.
Yeah.
But that's actually far from the truth. Greek mythology was multiple gods. There's no way around, like, although we assign certain traits to them because of how they rule, the king of the gods and the ruler of the underworld have very similarities to the Christian God and Satan, Lucifer. They're not the same at all.
No.
But speaking of those gods, multiple gods, and I said we wanted to highlight some of them. Did you want to talk about Poseidon?
Yeah, actually, Aquaman, you mean?
No, Poseidon.
I mean, they're the same fucking thing. They both live in a freaking castle in the ocean.
Did you know that Poseidon has two castles?
Yeah, he has one up in Olympus. He has one, in the sea. He rather lives one in the sea.
All right, so you do that.
Yeah.
All right.
He has a trident that was made from the, I think it was the Titans, I think it was, or the Cyclops made it.
It was the Cyclops. The
same. Cyclops made it. Then they made Zeus's lightning bolts, and they made Ares' thing of invisibility or what?
No, Hades.
Oh, Hades.
It was Hades.
Hades invisibility. Then there was like one more. I can't remember what it was. He was trying to overthrow Zeus off the throne, but failed to do it. And him and Athena got an argument about a city called Athens. It wasn't called Athens at the time, but they wanted. So what he did was he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna give him water." So he, gave him water or whatever. And Athena was like, "Oh, I'm gonna give him a tree." And they pick Athena over him, and blah 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 is now named Athens.
Did you know there's a statue of her in Athens?
Yeah, and there's a building named after her too, called the Virgin, the Virgin or something like that building.
The Parthenon.
Yeah, it's like, I think it means like the Virgin or something like that, because she was a virgin. And a lot of these sailors, back in like 2000 BC and stuff like that, they would like sacrifice people when they go on their like ship trips or whatever you want to call them, boat trips. And they would like sacrifice people just so they can, make it home safe, after their trip.
Yeah, because apparently if you didn't do sacrifices,
Poseidon
I don't know if it was always people. I think a lot of times it was animals. But
oh, well, Poseidon will fuck you up with storms and all kinds of shit. And these people back in the day, they were like 100% like believing this stuff. And they actually did do sacrifices and stuff on their, ships and stuff.
Yeah.
You want to add who your favorite god was?
Yeah, mine, unsurprisingly, is Hades. What he's known for is governing and judging those who are dead over those who've died. He tries to make sure that like they go to their proper locations, like they get judged and they get sent to 3 locations, either Tartarus, Asphodel Meadows, or Elysium. Tartarus is where, first of all, the Titans are always locked up, but it's also the place for like the wicked, like those who did bad things or were deemed to do bad things by the gods. Doesn't necessarily mean that it was actually bad. That just means they pissed off a god. Then you got the Asphodel Meadows, which are for basically any ordinary folk who just didn't do anything notable, good or bad. It's just a place for regular people who die. And then of course you got Elysium, which is for like those truly like people who are notable, people who like who are distinguished individuals who have done good deeds. That's for like basically heroes.
So he's not like literally like the cartoon Hercules, where it's like a flow of a river where all the souls are in. You know, they depleted that like really wrong.
There are a lot of people who die and have to go through there, so I imagine there is probably a flow of people like a river. But I don't think the Disney version, I don't think, gets it nearly as right as the like it's not going to.
Well, they made it where Hades was the bad guy, you know.
Yeah,
so they're gonna make him look like a bad guy. You gotta make him look like a bad guy. So.
Be truthfully honest, he actually ran the underworld altruistically. I know you probably don't know what that means. Altruism is principle and practice, the concern of well-being and happiness for other humans and animals. Basically, he ran the underworld in a way in which was for the well-being of humanity in general.
Gotcha. Even like in games like God of War, they made Hades look like a bad guy too. You know.
That's because modern depictions of him are synonymous with the Christian Satan, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him.
But back then, you know, when people actually believed this stuff,
they did still fear him, but they feared him because they didn't want to meet him. Because if they did meet him, they were dead.
You're already dead, though.
That's the point. You don't want to be dead.
Oh.
You want to live. But if you wanted to travel to the underworld without dying, you would have to cross the 5 rivers, and then you would have to get past Cerberus at the gate.
Oh, the 3-headed dog.
Yeah, with 5 rivers. I think everybody knows the river Styx, but there's also Lethe, Phlegethon, Hecactius, and Acheron or something like that. River of Woe, River of Wailing, River of Fire, and then River Styx, which is the River of the Unbreakable Oath, which everybody knows, and then the River of Forgetfulness. So those are the 5 rivers that you have to cross, and that's why you need a ferryman.
Or you can just walk it. You're like, fuck that ferryman, just swim through it.
But yeah, he's also the oldest son, which surprises me that.
Wait, the farrier is the oldest son?
No. Hades.
Oh, Hasio. Okay, I was gonna
say Hades is the oldest son, which is what surprises me that he didn't take the king of the gods.
Well, it's because I think it was kind of like a democracy at the time, because Zeus took out, you know, Kronos, and they're like, oh, Zeus is now, you know, king.
It's funny that in a lot of instances, Zeus is made out to be a douche.
Yeah.
Ruling over all the, like, we may a lot of times, like, some depictions may make him the god of gods, king of gods, and stuff like that.
Well, we talked about it.
But he's also kind of douches.
Well, we kind of talked about it like a couple minutes ago. Like, you know, Poseidon tried to overthrow him. Like, there's probably other gods that tried to overthrow him.
I'm sure a lot of gods.
And Kronos, the reason why he was eating babies was because he was afraid, because in his further predecessors, like his father got overthrown by his children. So Kronos...
He got overthrown by Kronos.
Well, Kronos was eating his baby because he thought his kids were going to, you know...
be like him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
I just wanted to point out that he's fearing his own self.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. And then on top of that, he also was fed a prophecy that he would be defeated by his own children. He was fed this prophecy that one of his children would be his undoing, and then took actions that instigated that.
Yeah, so he
literally eating his children caused Zeus to literally hate him. I did say that we were going to go over Roman mythology, the differences between Roman and Greek mythology.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to touch upon that.
All right.
And and as I said, you would see how some of the space-orientated stuff would come into play. Like, take the fact that Neptune is the god of fresh water instead of Poseidon, the god of the sea.
That's lame.
Or you got Jupiter, which is Zeus, basically.
Yeah.
In like every aspect.
Well, I mean, there is lightning constantly striking that place, and there's a giant volcano, there. It's like a plane of chaos.
And then, of course, you have Juno, which I don't know. I don't think it has to do with space, but...
That's a movie.
It's also a place.
Oh.
But Juno is the wife of Jupiter, which is obviously representing Hera. However, unlike Hera, Juno was not vindictive towards towards people.
The thing
Where
with
Hera was known to go after people, especially people who Zeus had kind of either kidnapped or raped. And she's like, well, if he's doing stuff with women that aren't me, they're going to pay for it.
that's the thing about that whole Greek mythology. They named every star after, well, not every star, but most of them after like Greek mythology. Like you got to like, um, I don't know. They like the Astro Belt. You know, who's Astro? I'm pretty sure that's
You think of Orion?
Orion Belt. Yeah, Orion Belt.
I mean, I get what you mean. There are certain things out there, but I'm saying a lot of the planets are named after Roman gods, like Pluto and Mars and Mercury.
Pluto's not a planet.
It was.
It was.
It's been downgraded. Pluto is actually representation of Hades in Roman mythology.
And that's probably why they downgraded it, because
this actually makes a lot more sense than some of the other ones, because the Greeks began referring to Hades as Pluton, meaning wealthy, because they believed that being in the underworld, under everything, he had access to all the riches that were found under there, like silver and gold and stuff.
Ah,
I mean, his temple, Hades' temples were known to have silver and gold trimmings and decorations and stuff. So they started referring to him as Pluton, which obviously means wealthy. So when the Romans picked it up, they obviously picked up that and named their version Pluto. So that one actually makes more sense. Than Mars is Ares. He's the god of war. But unlike Ares, which was just the god, Ares was just the carnage of war and unliked. Mars was more popular because the Romans were definitely about war and were bloodthirsty for war. And
I'll tell you what.
Conquering.
I'll tell you what. Up here, where my finger is, do you think you can place a map, like kind of like a map of what Greece and Roman looked like back in the day, so it gives our audience an idea? Like,
well, all these are the names of gods.
Yeah, I know, but we want to see the diversity between the Romans and the Greeks.
Oh, where Greece and Rome is?
Yeah. Because they used to be small tribes, right?
Used to be, but Rome grew. Rome became a giant empire.
Yeah.
Greece was more of a bunch of different islands and mountainy areas. There's another one that I want to talk about here, which is Bacchus. I didn't realize that Bacchus was a Roman god. I actually have a friend on PlayStation whose username is Bacchus. Bacchus is the Roman god of wine and pleasure.
Basically, that's right. We talked about that
Basically
earlier.
the Dionysus of the Roman gods. The only difference is that Bacchus was very vengeful to people that were against his cult and who were against like freedom to do whatever. If you decided that it was wrong to just go out and drink and party and do whatever the fuck you wanted, he would be vengeful towards you and smite you down.
So why we're talking about Ares, the god of war. He was the bad guy, right? Like a lot of people like back then, Greek mythology.
He was the butt of a lot of bad situations. He was made to be a fool in a lot of the Greek mythology. He wasn't very well liked because Greece wasn't a conquering nation. To be honest, most of it was just different little civilizations.
Yeah, there's every god in this mythology has like some kind of purpose. Like I can have that fucking party guy, the god of parties and stuff. That's kind of useless.
Yeah, well, a lot of people look at the gods as characters and stuff, but the gods actually represent different parts of humanity. Actually,
yeah, that's what I'm kind of thinking too, because they have so many of them, like hundreds of them.
There's also like a lot of stuff that represents how the universe works.
Like the top 12 are like the big part, right? But then the other ones below that are like small portions. Like wisdom, Athena, wisdom. Then you got, the god of war. You got God of, probably boat making or something stupid like that. Craftsmanship or something.
Well, the closest I know for sure is Hephaestus, which was the god of blacksmith and craftsmanship.
Oh, there you go.
But he mostly worked with the forge and fire, not boat making. But I'm sure that boat making could be under his domain.
Right.
But he more made weapons and shields.
Can you imagine back in the day with those Greek guys like, oh, please help me, build my boat the best, I can build it. Then.
But I do want to go over, we're talking about how they use the gods to represent different parts of like humanity in the universe. Demeter being the god of harvest and stuff. One of the stories involving her daughter, and Hades actually is an explanation for the changing of the seasons. Because Hades was known to have kidnapped her daughter and taken her as a wife. Demeter got really upset and caused a famine and stuff. And then different gods had to step in, and eventually Hades had let her go, but had given her pomegranate seeds, which binded her to the underworld. So she had to return to the underworld for 3 months out of the year. So it's known that for 3 months out of the year, her daughter had to return to the underworld, and that's what's known as winter. Spring is when she returns, and fall is right before she goes to the...
I actually like that. That's kind of unique. That's I didn't know about that part. That's kind of unique. That's kind of cool. But what if you believe in this, but you live in like a hemisphere where it's like tropical all year round?
I mean, luckily they didn't.
Yeah.
But it was an explanation for the things that they found around them. I think that's the biggest thing that the mythology does, is it explains the things that happen around them. It explains storms and lightnings and weather patterns. It explains different facets of humanity. It explains so many different things.
Just in that region.
It's their understanding of how it works.
Yeah.
If you were from the Middle East, you'd either understand like Judaism or Muslims, Islam.
Yeah, Islamic.
So you would understand the world around you through their religions. I mean, there is one other Roman god I want to throw in.
Okay, go ahead.
Mostly because the name is kind of funny. It's Vulcan.
Vulcan?
Yeah, which...
That sounds Russian.
It's not, but they use it in Star Trek. It's the race of pointy-eared aliens. But it's actually Hephaestus' Roman counterpart, the god of fire and forge. See, the Romans in around 5 BC ran into the Greeks through their exploration.
Right.
They ran into them through their exploration, and they incorporated a lot of what the Greek mythology was into their own understanding. Because honestly, the Roman culture didn't really have a very big religious background. They were more about conquering and thriving their society than about the culture and their religions and stuff.
Well, that's kind of funny you mentioned that, because remember how like the Romans, adopted that religion? A lot of times you would see like Romans drink out of like copper cups or eat off of copper plates. The reason why they did that was so they look, look. They were trying to impress the gods, using fancy, stuff like that.
For most of Roman,
because they have ceramics.
For most of Roman history, the gods were ethereal in nature. They weren't characters. They were more just powers.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the influence of the different Greek factions that they actually started incorporating in real beings as gods. But I do want to go off on this little side thing really quick, just as a little ending note before we wrap up, because you mentioned that they drank out of copper cups and stuff. For the Greeks, going from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age was actually a downgrade to them, because they saw it as a inferior product, like Iron may have been harder and better for like war, but they're used to these shiny things that are made of bronze. And you're going to iron, which requires a lot more tempering, a lot more work to make it into something, to smelt it into anything. You're getting a less shiny product out of more work. It's inferior.
So it's all about shiny,
Yeah, because they believe that the shinier it was, the
better the quality was.
Yeah, gold and bronze were considered high class, whereas iron was considered a downgrade, even though iron is stronger than either of those two.
It's like me taking a plastic bag and picking up some water and putting it into it. Water would be shinier than me grabbing a cast iron, using that on my chest.
I mean, that's an exaggeration. But
yeah, I mean, I exaggerated the fuck out of it. Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that in there because you mentioned copper cups and stuff.
Well, apparently the Romans were using copper, for every dishes. Apparently, it's like not really
probably because they had an abundance of copper,
and it's not good for your health either.
I don't think it's that bad.
Well, no, the copper that they used back in the day, they weren't like cleaned well, and it would cause like your body parts not working right.
Well, anyways, I think we're getting a little off of the track, and I think
yeah,
probably a good time to end the episode.
Yeah, we're out of here.
But thank you for watching the podcast.
Well, I'm Willy.
And I'm CRollur.
Thank you for watching our episode.
Peace out.
Peace. Now, what took out Zeus?
According to this little thing, he was overthrown by Hera, Athena, and Poseidon. Although some versions say that instead of Athena, it was Apollo.